Are we being watched by aliens from outer space? Are these the craft they are using to visit us? Did this Scottish forester really have a close encounter in this lonely glade? And what does this classic UFO film show? A flying saucer or something more down to earth? Is there really a monster in Loch Ness? Does this film, shot in 1936 but lost until today, really show the creature? And does this film, shot 41 years later, mean the monster is still living there today? How can it be that this man has seen a sight that shouldn't exist, the fabulous canals of Mars? Can this crater on the dark side of the moon explain a mystery handwritten in this book centuries ago? Does this glass plate hold the secret of the lost planet Vulcan? And can this computer crack the oldest astronomical riddle of all? What was the Star of Bethlehem? These mysteries, from the files of Arthur C. Clarke, author of 2001 and inventor of the communication satellite, are examined in a special 6-volume cassette series, Arthur C. Clarke's Mysterious World. For ordering or information regarding this series, call 1-800-538-5856.
Can witch doctors hex or bewitch their enemies to death? What really killed this man in Oklahoma City? His death certificate says he died of asthma, but his doctor believes the real cause was more sinister. Was he killed by a curse? Literally scared to death? Mysteries from the files of Arthur C. Clarke, scientist, writer and visionary. The scientist who invented the communication satellite, the author of 2010. And now in retreat in Sri Lanka, the visionary who ponders the riddles of this and other worlds.
These are devil dancers from Sri Lanka, but you will find them in many other parts of the world. Their rituals were designed centuries ago to drive out demons and overcome spells. Although devil dancing is a popular tourist attraction, it would be a mistake to regard it as a quaint survival from a superstitious past. Millions still believe in it.
In the jungle in Sri Lanka, belief in the magic that kills is very much alive. The sinister spells are cast in a mountain cave. With drumbeat and fire, the devil dancer calls on a demon to help him lay a curse on his enemy. To make sure the victim dies, the spell demands a human skull, freshly dug from the village graveyard. If this bait works, the dancer is possessed by the demon, which demands mesmerized cockerels as a sacrifice. When the rites are over, ashes from the ceremonial fire must be hidden near the enemy's home. There they'll be left to work their murderous magic. Lifting an evil spell calls for equally elaborate ceremonies. This woman believes she has been bewitched. Paralyzed with fear, she's brought for exorcism. The devil dancer's job is to entice the demon from the woman's body. Then the senior sorcerer, or katadia, catches the demon on a thread and imprisons it in a bottle. He promises that the spell will be lifted when the bottle's consigned to the depths of the Indian Ocean. In Burma in World War II, West African troops amazed their officers with stories of the power of the juju. One officer, a captain, remembers a case that ended as predicted in death. Alf Lewis.
A soldier had gone to see the colonel, asked for an interview, and asked to be sent back to West Africa next day. He had to be in his village in West Africa next day, he said, because a juju was going there, and he had to be in his hut when he came. The colonel said it was impossible. He couldn't be got back to West Africa in that time. And the man said, well, if I no go to juju, juju go come to me, I go die. The man had said to someone, one of his friends, that he would die next day at midday. He was in the admissions tent and he was lying on a sort of stretcher bed. Young chap, perfectly fit apparently, just lying there, eyes open, looking at the tent ceiling, the roof. The major said, what do you think about him? Well, I'd had some experience in the RMC before I was commissioned in the military hospital, and so I had a look at him, and his pulse was normal, respiration, breathing was all right, temperature, no temperature. Just lying there quietly, looking up. Wouldn't answer any questions, wouldn't talk. The following day, about 12:30 or so, the phone rang, and I picked it up, and it was the major from the field ambulance. He said, you remember that chap we saw yesterday? I said, yes. He said, well, he's slipped away on time. Just after 12 o'clock. Died. Closed his eyes, died. He apparently just stopped breathing, closed his eyes, and died.
It sounds fantastic, yet there is chilling evidence gathered by doctors and psychiatrists and published in respected medical journals that magic does work sometimes. Spells can bring illness and even death. And this happens not only in the East or the lands of voodoo, but throughout the world.
In America, for instance, this family drugstore is well stocked with the weird potions and powders prescribed by the local form of voodoo. Plenty of products to ward off evil spirits, at least amongst the goods for sale over the counter. In this part of the world, voodoo is called root medicine because the people believe that some plants have magical power in their roots. The city's doctors have to take root medicine seriously. Dr. Ramsey Millett Jr.
If I wanted someone to really suffer and die, and I knew this person believed in this, then I would knowingly put in a black root bag a mixture of different things which will ensure that this person will suffer and die. The first thing I would do would be to put a root in there. Then the next thing I would do is write that person's name down 9 times, all right, on virgin parchment paper with dragon's blood ink, put it in there along with the root. Then I would get some graveyard dust from a grave of some dude or dudess who has committed horrendous crimes. In other words, this has to be a very bad person whom some people say is like a devil. And again, you put this in the root bag. That's the essential ingredient in that. Now, if possible, again, put hair from the intended victim, their hair, again, their fingernails, again, some feathers, if possible, from a buzzard, a vulture there. If you want to make them suffer, in addition to just dying slowly, if you want to make them have sharp pains, it's best to cut an undershirt, as a part of the undershirt, right over their heart, and this will give them pains in the heart. Put a needle in it, put it inside the root bag, and again, tie up this root bag and plant it someplace on the person's property or as close to that person as you possibly can get.
Root medicine flourishes, especially on the islands south of Charleston. Traditionally, people who believe they've been hexed come to this graveyard and ask the spirits of the dead to help lift the spell. Caretaker Ben Parker knows the ritual. The spirit must be paid with half a pint of whiskey and 9 cents.
If I got a bad spell, I come right here. I dig a hole down in there, and I'll call. You can see the name on there, so you call them by the name. Lydia Brown. Then you say, Lydia Brown, I have a bad spell on me. I want you to take it off. I'm paying you. I don't want you to do it for nothing. I'm paying you to do this for me. Then you dig a hole, pour half pint of whiskey and 9 cents in there, and cover it back up.
After a lifetime on Edisto Island, Ben Parker knows the recipes of root medicine, and sometimes his neighbors consult him.
What other things would they use for a death spell?
You can take a rattlesnake, kill a rattlesnake, and drag it through your yard, and that can kill all of your people in your house.
And that would be like a very evil spell.
Yeah. That's a death spell.
Ben specializes in protecting houses against harmful influences. He shows Nora Esteves how to use household ammonia to ward off the magic of evil roots.
Ben, when you put this around, I just want to make sure, what will you be protecting me from?
When you put this around, this protect you from people putting anything around here for you to pick up, and if anything here, it'll eat it up.
Here in South Carolina, root medicine creates serious difficulties for conventional doctors. Psychiatrist Mike Lampkin works on the islands. He's expert at spotting the signs.
For example, here. Now, you notice this house over here. It's got the dark blue trim around the windows and around the door, and how the posts are painted up along the front porch. That blue protects the dwellers of that home from the evil spirits, or from a root being applied to them.
Dr. Lampkin regularly has to sort out the consequences of root medicine. Today, he's been called to a patient who's convinced she's under an evil spell. Lampkin has learned from experience that he must pretend to be a root doctor himself to have any chance of success.
I have to transform myself from the pseudo-sophisticated psychiatrist into the very, very omnipotent and all-knowing root doctor.
The dehexing session has all the trappings of root medicine.
Do you know the name of the person who has placed the root on you?
Yes.
I don't wish to know the name.
He gives her harmless drugs, which cause hot flushes, and tomorrow will turn her urine bright green, signs that the evil spirits are leaving her body. With this elaborate ceremonial, Lambkin hopes to convince the woman that he is a very powerful root doctor.
When I draw near unto the sick man, when I examine the muscles of the sick man, when I compose his limbs, when I sprinkle the water of awe on the sick man, when I subdue the sick man.
Both Lambkin and his patient wear blue glasses, the traditional protection against evil
You
spirits.
have 3 cents from your husband, and 4 from you. Would you place the 3 cents from your husband on this side of the plate and the 4 from you on that side?
Finally, when he's convinced the patient believes in his powers, Mike Lambkin gets her to help him cast out the spell. Though he says it's all a charade, Lambkin's dehexing usually works.
You must tell no one what has taken place here. You may tell your husband that the problems have been taken care of. I want you to keep this jar with you, hidden, for 3 days. On the 3rd day, find a creek or river. Toss this into it on the outgoing tide. Toss it over your left shoulder. That will complete the process.
Emergency expenses of my...
But can roots affect even skeptical people? G. Gatty Dowling is a rational man. He's one of South Carolina's leading lawyers.
Okay.
Thank you.
And make me 3 copies of that, too. Certainly. Thank you.
Yet he's convinced that an evil spell was put on his family. It all began the day he sacked the maid.
The daytime cook had gone in to clean up the room that Lucille, who had been our maid, had left, and had found something in there that she called a root, made up of 2 needles going one way and one the other, and wrapped around with black thread and stuck into the head of the mattress where Lucille had been sleeping. And I pulled it out, and when I did, I walked back towards the kitchen, and Liza saw me with a root in my hand, and she went hysterical again and ran out into the yard again.
Soon it seemed that the evil magic of the islands had invaded his home.
My oldest son stopped breathing and was in a life-threatening situation. I was in a very life-threatening situation with a ruptured appendix. My small son came down with a double dose of measles and chicken pox. And my wife, she had this adult case of chicken pox. Let's say that the evidence adds up. I was thinking in terms of whether a jury would decide that I had had the root put on me, and I would really have to conclude that they would.
There's no doubt that people can lose the will to live, often through sheer fright induced by spells, despite the best efforts of the doctors to save them. In 1965, the British Medical Journal reported several well-authenticated cases of this amazing phenomenon.
The members of the British Medical Association who wrote the letters still dine out on the stories.
When I have seen people in South London who were under the influence of a hex, they practiced witchcraft, and they knew that they had been hexed, and they would show evidence of psychosomatic illnesses like asthma or skin irritations and so on.
I had an extraordinary experience at the end of the war because a woman came into the hospital and I was asked to see her, and she said she had been, I forget whether it was hexed or bewitched, and that she was going to die. And she did die. She sat up in bed, staring ahead, eating nothing, nothing happening. She was literally frozen with fright. and she died in 3 days.
When I was a house surgeon in one of the teaching hospitals in Montreal in 1935, I had a patient who had had an operation on her kidney. She had a perfectly reasonable post-operative course. And about a week after the operation, the nurse came in one evening and said, "Would you like to look at the menu for breakfast and order what you would like?" She said, "Oh, no, it's no use." She said, "I'll be dead before breakfast time." Well, I was sent for, and she was so certain of this that I did something I had never done before and didn't do after. I sent for the head of the department, who came in, and he met the professor of medicine on the steps, and he brought him in too. And they both checked this woman all over as thoroughly as they could. They reassured us all. And we all went to bed reasonably happy, I think. The next morning, the nurse woke this patient up, washed her as usual, gave her the breakfast menu, went out of the room for 4 or 5 minutes, came back and found her lying dead.
I think most of us can understand someone becoming really quite sick because of fear or anxiety or a conviction that they've had a spell put on them. But the actual process of dying is difficult to understand.
In the patients who did die, the ones that I looked into, there was no cause of death, no real identifiable cause of death.
But psychiatrist Dr. Roland Littlewood has studied voodoo and believes there may be a medical explanation for these strange deaths.
We have some evidence which comes from post-mortems carried out in West Africa on people who died after having been cursed. The adrenal glands, which are two little glands near your kidney, produce adrenaline, which is necessary to keep your blood pressure up, a whole lot of other things in your body. Now, you get a surge of adrenaline into your bloodstream at crises, at times when you have to fight, times when you have to run away. Now, it seems that in these particular individuals, after they've been cursed, the adrenal glands were completely drained of adrenaline, as if it had all been used up in one surge. And as it was used up, the blood pressure then drops dramatically, and the person dies.
Is that what happened in Oklahoma? Here in the Oddfellows Cemetery lies businessman Finis P. Ernest. He died at the Veterans Administration Hospital, Oklahoma City, in 1960. It's a long way from the lands of voodoo, yet Ernest's doctor, James Mathis, believes his patient was killed by a curse, and that his death certificate gives only part of the story. Ernest suffered from asthma, and visits to his mother seemed to trigger the attacks, as Mathis realized after allowing him out of hospital one weekend.
This was the first hint that we had that perhaps we were dealing with something a little bit more than just ordinary asthma. So a week later, on August the 17th, we gave him the same sort of pass, but this time with some different instructions. We said, please do not visit your mother. Go in the opposite direction. Go to a motel, and if I recall correctly, he actually went back to the place where he was born, a little town west of here, about 150 miles. Came back a late Sunday evening with a story from his wife, perfect. No wheezing, not a shred of difficulty. Well, this sort of clinched it, we thought, and in his own mind, he began to see that something was wrong, but perhaps he didn't get the physiology exactly correct. He said, it looks like I'm, quote, allergic to my mother, unquote.
Finis Ernest had been running a busy nightclub in downtown Ponca City, but by 1960 he was bored and decided to sell up. His mother was the partner in the business, and she was furious.
This man's mother was looked upon by him as infallible. He pointed out to me time and time again that mother had never been wrong. Every time she had predicted something, it came true. For example, she had predicted that his first marriage would fail. It failed. She predicted his second marriage would fail. It failed. She predicted his third marriage would be successful. It was successful. The business was the key. When he mentioned selling it, sometimes about a year to a year and a half before the final outcome, she adamantly said no, in no way. And her words, according to him, were, something dire will happen to you.
The memory of their last weekend together is cherished by his widow, Josephine.
This last weekend that I had with him at the down to Oklahoma City in the motel, and we just had a marvelous time, and he just seemed like he could never be ill again, until he decided that maybe we'd better go by and see his mother. And we did, and after we went by to see his mother, it wasn't but a few minutes till he started having this breathlessness, and I knew it was a sign of an attack. And I had to hurriedly call the hospital and tell him that I was afraid that he was having another attack and we'd be bringing him in.
Once over the attack, Ernest told Mathis he was going ahead with the nightclub sale.
After our session at 5:30, he called his mother and said, in essence, the doctor and I have talked this over, and I have decided to reinvest my money. And he was going to reinvest this money in a business that did not need mother. And he said, we will not need your advice. She listened to him politely, apparently, and said, son, have I ever been wrong? And he said, no. And she said, what did I tell you? Well, he said, you said something dire would happen to me. She said, it will. It will.
Within the hour, Finis Ernest was dead.
I really believe that last call, telephone call, conversation with his mother contributed directly to his death.
Autopsy showed no heart attack, no stroke, none of the usual causes of death. That's why we call it a sophisticated version of voodoo death.
These stories prove the extraordinary, even fatal, power that the mind can have over the body. After listening to the doctors, I'm convinced that people can be literally scared to death. Yet I don't believe that spells work unless the victim knows that he's the target. For what kills is not any occult power of the witch doctor, but the victim's own belief that he is doomed. This destructive influence of the mind over the body could become a power for good. Doctors have always known what a crucial role a patient's psychological state has on the progress of his disease. These dark tales of fear and death could lead to new techniques for harnessing the mind, not to kill, but to cure.